What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted. Today we're talking about this.
We just had a big drop of a bunch of government documents on unidentified aerial phenomena today.
The recent release of UFO videos by the Pentagon is a mixed bag. They all seem to be thermal videos from the MQ-9 Reaper drone, mostly of small or faraway objects that the drone operator just happens to catch in the camera while zooming in on something else.
And David, the government touted these files as never before seen, but some of them had been public in the past. The military, though, acknowledges that many are unresolved. They cannot be explained. And tonight, the Pentagon is promising more releases of files to come.
Time for our out of this world lead. The truth is out there, Fox Mulder said. The Pentagon today released what it says are never before seen images of unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs, or as you and I know them, UFOs.
There's a lukewarm, at best, response to it or reaction. You lose people.
Yeah, it's going to go one of two ways. I have been exposed to, George Knapp has been exposed to, we've had people testify to, like, biologics, right? Actual beings that pilot these craft and autopsies of them. If that is true, why are they burying the lead? It's either a slow acclimation to the public or they didn't get the good stuff.
I have some really cool announcements I'll be making very soon, some big moves that I'm extremely excited about. And I know some of you may be disappointed on the initial release, but I can assure you, I know firsthand from people I'm speaking to on the inside that there's a lot more good stuff coming.
The first drop will be big, but in comparison to what is coming, this will be a drop in the bucket. I would say, quote, holy crap, end quote, is coming. And I think it gets to the bottom line, Congressman. Is the government going to give us answers? Like a yes or no, we know or we don't know about possibly extraterrestrial life?
I don't know, honestly, Blake.
The following tranches will be, the juicier stuff that is harder for them to get. It'll just take longer.
Almost all of this does get explained. It's an airplane, or it's a weather balloon, or it's a meteoroid, or it's sometimes even some type of mirage. Almost all of it. But some of it has not been explained, and that's what keeps the interest alive in this. And I think it's going to grow even more because the Pentagon says they're going to release even more files, which perhaps more current sightings.
Whether it's more conclusive, I don't know, but we're going to see more evidence. We have not seen everything that is there. I can say that with certainty.
Are we trying to prepare the American people with a slow drip, drip, drip tease of this stuff? If not, then Congressman, I would say, if this is all we've got, then I'm not sure that there's anything the American government really has that tells us anything about the existence of aliens. I'm just beginning to feel like this entire story is teased out always just beyond our reach.
I want to warn people, though, this early stuff that we're seeing is not all of it. And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
I have not seen any firm evidence that there are aliens out there. What the Pentagon is now doing is basically letting the American people make up their own minds.
What you're saying is we are on the cusp of getting a lot more details that deal with actual alien beings, however you're going to describe them.
That's certainly up to the president's team, and I certainly support them, but it has come to my attention actually recently, as of today, there are some actors within certain intelligence agencies, to include DIA and CIA specifically, that are actually blocking some of the president's presidentially appointed team and getting access and getting control on some of these historical records.
All right, Vetters, please hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. All right, so what's today's video about? Well, it's about basically the world reaction from a lot of different, news outlets and UFO personalities to this, huge, quote, huge file dump that happened on Friday, right? President Trump releasing the first tranche, as they're calling it, of UFO files, which there will be subsequent releases of files. So this is just, we're just going to go over all the different reactions across the board of all of this and kind of go over some of the more compelling stuff that was in it and some of the stuff that just wasn't that compelling either, right? So, because there's a lot to cover, as you just saw in that opening sort of long montage that I put together. I was scrolling through my bank app recently, and I realized I was still getting charged for a gym membership that I haven't stepped foot in months because, you know, I live in Spain now. And somehow I was still paying for a streaming service twice. Let's just say I felt like an idiot. All that money was just quietly disappearing every month, and I had no idea. And that's when I fired up Rocket Money. It tracks every subscription across all my accounts and lets me cancel the ones I don't want with just a few taps. They've already helped users cancel over 880 million in unwanted subscriptions. It also pulls all my checkings, savings, loans, and investments into one clean dashboard so I can finally see the full picture and actually stay on top of my spending. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spendings, and helps lower your bills so you can expand your savings. Let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/vetted. That's rocketmoney.com/vetted. rocketmoney.com/vetted. Now, let's start with something that I want to just get, clear the air on real quick, which is a video that I put out previously about this sort of star-shaped thing, right? And in my last video where it was alleged that this was just basically a flare with a parachute, right? Well, with a little more research and a little more, I guess, reaction from the community, there have been some other suggestions, of what else it could be. It could be a paraglider with, a flare or a light attached to it. It could be just some sort of refraction in the camera that's causing that, what looks like a parachute, because it is true, parachute flares are round and this thing does look, rectangular. But whatever it is, what we can determine, in my opinion, it's not alien. So at this point, I don't really care what it is. I just know it's not alien. And I'm not here to talk about whether something's a flare or a paraglider or an actual skydiver, I don't really care. It's not alien. So, the video still stands and the point still stands of my video without a doubt. So, but regardless, just wanted to mention those other options of what that could be. All right. Now, let's get into the meat of this. President Donald J. Trump released this statement about the UFO file dump. As for my promise to you, the Department of War has released the first tranche of the UFO/UAP files to the public for their review and study. In an effort for complete and maximum transparency, it is my honor to direct my administration to identify and provide government files related to alien and extraterrestrial life, unidentified aerial phenomena, and unidentified flying objects. Whereas previous administrations have failed to be transparent on the subject, with these new documents and videos, the people can decide for themselves. What the hell is going on? Have fun and enjoy, President Donald J. Trump. And then he includes a link to the site. Now, what's kind of funny is as I was looking through the files previously, and I tweeted about this, there was 162 files when it initially came out, and then it switched to 161 while I was looking at it, and one of the files went missing. Now, some people said it was a dead link. Others were saying they hid some document. I don't know, at the end of the day, but I just thought that was odd. And the actual statement on the Department of War website says this about the files. The Department of War is in lockstep with President Trump to bring unprecedented transparency regarding our government's understanding of unidentified anomalous phenomena. These files, hidden behind classifications, have long fueled justified speculation, and it's time the American people see it for themselves. This release of declassified documents demonstrates the Trump administration's earnest commitment to unprecedented transparency. But what's interesting, and Trump mentioned it as well in a statement, people are saying that it's even being reported on the news that most, if not all of these files were publicly available before. What they may have added is less redactions, right? But essentially, you know, we're kind of getting a retread here. Now, it is all brought to one place to look at to make it easier, right? But still, where's the transparency at the end of the day? This isn't this maximum transparency that they're promising. Now, we'll have to wait and see with the subsequent drops what actually comes, and right, because we're being told that there's the best stuff is yet to come. The real stuff is coming. Because, you know, to be honest, the first batch was a little underwhelming. There were some things that were compelling, for myself included, and I'm the most skeptical around, right? And mainly it had to do with the NASA stuff, if I'm being honest. But again, they're saying a lot of this stuff was already out there.
And David, the government touted these files as never before seen, but some of them had been public in the past. The military, though, acknowledges that many are unresolved. They cannot be explained. And tonight, the Pentagon is promising more releases of files to come.
I mean, even on Twitter, there's, you know, articles getting community noted saying this was already available, right? Check this from the Daily Mail. The reference FBI memo describing reports of 4-foot-tall beings is from October 1966 and has been publicly available via FOIA for years. And it was on John Greenwald's Black Vault site, right? And he even tweeted out about this and showing the document. So, again, and John Greenwald Jr., who runs the Black Vault, right? Not really too happy about these files. Here's his statement. Nearly 30 years of doing this, I don't know more than anyone else, and I hate people who claim they do. But when I look at what was released, I can tell you that the denials that I receive are not these documents, photos, or videos. Why? Because there is no reason to hide many of them. That, on top of the fact that many of them have been released before. It's just a fresh scan with more clarity on some of them, and so everybody is freaking out that this is all, quote, new. Some of it is, sure, but much of this is a smokescreen and a disguise hidden in an aura of, quote, transparency. With more digging and time, I believe I'll prove it more and more. And for those of you that aren't familiar, John Greenwald Jr. runs the Black Vault, right, which is the largest website of foilable documents and stuff. There's my dog. He's making all kinds of noise. I apologize. Mac, you know, hey, producer on the show, y'all, he gets, you know, he gets to do whatever he wants. Anyway, yeah, John runs the site, the Black Vault. I'm sure many of you know, but for those that don't, again, the largest site of FOIA declassified documents. And so his opinion does matter on this. Now, again, I did say that some of this stuff was rather compelling, at least at first glance, right? For instance, this video right here, which came with a description that said this. The United States Central Command submitted a report of an unidentified anomalous phenomena to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, consisting of 1 minute and 5 seconds of video footage captured via multiple sensor modalities aboard a U.S. military platform in 2024. An accompanying mission report, DOW UAP-D7, described the UAP as diamond-shaped and moving at approximately 434 knots. The observer also reported that the UAP was only detectable via shortwave infrared sensor. So, I don't know, right? Until we figure it out. 434 knots is essentially almost like 500 miles an hour, which is roughly the average speed of a commercial jetliner, right? If you fly somewhere, right? Especially overseas. So it's fast, but we definitely have things that move that fast that aren't military or anything like that, right? So I don't know. And then there was this one as well, which I did find to be compelling, at least until it's proven it's not. And it came with this description as well. It said the United States Central Command submitted a report of an unidentified anomalous phenomena to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, consisting of 2 minutes and 57 seconds of video footage from an infrared sensor aboard a U.S. military platform in 2023. An accompanying mission report, DOW UAP-D33, described the UAP as flying near the surface of the ocean and making multiple, quote, 90-degree turns at approximately 80 miles per hour. And I found that to be rather interesting. And you do see in the video, it's kind of moving all over the place. I don't know. Again, until it's proven not, that's at least a hint of something extraordinary, right? So we'll have to wait and see on this one. And then there was this video right here, which initially caught my eye and I was baffled by it, right? And let's take a look at some more information about it. The description says the United States Indo-Pacific Command submitted a report of an unidentified anomalous phenomenon to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, consisting of 1 minute and 39 seconds of video footage from an infrared sensor aboard a U.S. military platform in 2024. The reporter did not provide any oral or written description of the observation. Right. So you see it zipping around the wind farm here and you're like, oh, my God. And even me initially, when I saw this, I thought this is interesting just because there was points of reference. And, you know, it seemed like, right, that it was performing in a way that I thought to be unusual. And you even had former Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet speak about it on CNN with Jake Tapper.
I don't know how much time you've had to go over what was released today, but what was the most significant thing you saw that was released today?
I looked at every single report, video, and image, Jake, and I think the one that stood out to me is this UFO that is moving around a wind farm in the Indo-Pacific region, and it's absolutely remarkable. I'll ask your audience to pull it up, but this object is maneuvering around these wind turbines, and it can't be explained. We don't have it can't be explained by a drone or a helicopter. It adds to the body of evidence that is occurring now in terms of video data and imagery that has convinced me that we are not alone in the universe.
All right, I'll find out what you're talking about, and I'll put it out on social media and say this is what Admiral Gallaudet was talking about.
Then Mick West, who is a UFO video analyst, I would say, but he's also self-describes himself as a skeptic. He came out with a video sort of debunking it, right? Not entirely, but I thought it would be worth showing you his research and what he thought this video consists of.
But this video has caught people's attention. It seems to show a small object flying in and out of some wind turbines, making sudden movements and even entirely changing direction. This prompted Admiral Tim Gallaudet of the Sol Foundation to say,
the one that stood out to me is this UFO that is moving around a wind farm in the Indo-Pacific region. And it's absolutely remarkable that this object is maneuvering around these wind turbines, and it can't be explained.
Can't be explained? Let's give it a go. The video shares some aspects with others in this release. It's thermal, looks like black is hot, it's really zoomed in, it's shot from a moving aircraft, the MQ-9 drone, which is cruising at around 200 miles per hour. It's also being manually tracked. There's no lock on the object, so the drone operator is following it around with manual controls using a joystick, kind of like an Xbox controller. So the camera sways around a lot. This creates the illusion that the object itself is moving erratically. That happens because there's lots of stuff on screen that is fixed in position relative to the camera. There's the on-screen display, mostly covered by these black boxes, but there's also a layer of sensor noise that is easily mistaken for background. The object moves relative to this when the operator manually tracks it, but how is it actually moving relative to the real background? The way to find out is to stabilize it, which I did with Sitrek's built-in tracking tools, generating a stabilized video. So now we see, rather than weaving around on screen, the object is actually traveling in a relatively straight line with respect to the background. This is very consistent with something like a balloon and the parallax effect from the camera moving, like we've seen with many other videos like Go Fast and Aguadilla. But doesn't it go behind the wind turbines? Actually, no. There's not a single frame of the video where it's hidden by the turbines. We do see it get a bit dimmer, but that's explainable simply by a local area automatic gain control, or other video contrast or sharpening adjustments. The bottom line here is that if it went behind a turbine, there would be frames where you can't see it. That doesn't happen. It's in front of them. But then, we see the object appear to change direction, slowing down and going back the way it came. How can that be parallax? Easy. If the drone, moving at constant speed, just did a 180-degree turn to keep the object in range while keeping the camera pointing at the object, then you get the same effect. Here's what this might look like. There's a drone at about 33,000 feet and a balloon just drifting at 9,000 feet. The camera is really zoomed in. I'm using the stabilized video for comparison. With the drone simply flying straight for a while and then making a turn, we get the exact same effect. The object, in this case a 3-foot wide sphere, seems to be skimming along close to the turbines, which are actually 10 miles behind it. When the drone makes a 180-degree turn over 30 seconds, the object seems to slow down, turn towards the camera, and then go back the way it came. Did we explain it? Not perfectly, as the exact time and location are not known, so this recreation is an approximation. But we've shown that it's not weaving in and out of the turbines, it's not making sudden movements, and its overall path is entirely consistent with a balloon and parallax. Other videos in this release are similar. We get the same illusions of motions from the manual tracking and the sensor noise. We can remove this illusion with stabilization. What remains is, unfortunately, mundane-looking objects moving in mundane ways, simply too far away to be identified, but probably balloons.
So you'll have to make up your own mind yourself, but I think Mick West makes a pretty compelling argument. Again, it's not definitive because we don't have all the information, and that's the problem with all of these videos, like I've been saying. We just don't get enough context or information to really determine what's going on. So anyone saying they're alien spacecraft, what? No. Right? There may be some compelling things, and we do need to look into it, and it may be hard to actually determine what it is without more information. But again, the stuff that I found the most compelling was the stuff they released from NASA.
All engines running, commit, liftoff.
Older NASA missions also appear, although many were made public earlier. Among them, a bit of unusual audio between the capsule and ground control during the 1965 Gemini 7 mission.
This is Houston. Say again, 7?
Yeah, bogey at 10 o'clock high.
You have any more information, estimated distance or size?
It looks like hundreds of little particles going by the west out about 3 to 4 miles.
Also, Apollo 12 astronaut Alan Bean reporting from space in 1969. You can see these lights, particles of light, flashes of light, and they're just sailing off. They really haul out of here and press off out at the stars.
One of the astronauts says, we've got a few very bright particles or fragments or something that go drifting by as we maneuver. The control center says, Roger, understood. Another astronaut says, there's a whole bunch of big ones on my window down there, just bright. It looks like the 4th of July out of Ron's window. Another astronaut says, yes, now you can see some of them in shape. They're very jagged, angular fragments that are tumbling. This exchange has long been dismissed as floating insulation. But now the White House is saying, while this photo has been previously released and discussed by keen observers, there is no consensus about the nature of the anomaly.
They released a recording with, you just heard some of the excerpts there, right, of astronauts, of what stuff they saw out there in space. And then you had, some photos that they released that had been previously released, but again, they kind of brought them all together, and you can see some of them here on the screen. I just thought they were interesting, right? Because essentially you're out in space, there's less man-made stuff out there, right? It's not going to be a balloon or a drone or a bird, right? It kind of lessens the things of what it could be. No satellites on the moon, right? So especially during that time or now, I just find it to be more compelling, and especially the last picture, right? This one was the most compelling to me. And it came with this description. As part of the review of historical UAP materials under Pursue, DOW has opened a case to investigate the accompanying NASA photograph from the Apollo 17 mission, taken December 1972. The image contains 3, quote, dots in a triangular formation in the lower right quadrant of the lunar sky that is clearly visible upon magnification of the image. While this photo has been previously released and discussed by keen observers, there is no consensus about the nature of the anomaly. New preliminary U.S. government analysis suggests the image feature is potentially the result of a physical object in the scene. Additionally, as part of this investigation, the government has obtained the original film from the Apollo 17 mission, and the results of the full NASA and DOW analysis will be released when completed. And I thought that was great. That's what I'm talking about. This is the single one thing that I'm most excited about is this particular picture. Of course, all of the pictures released by NASA and the recordings and that stuff. Again, I'm most compelled by this stuff from NASA, so I can't wait to see what they release about this particular image, because they're saying, yeah, we think it's a physical object there. So what the hell is there on the moon with these guys back in 1972, right? This triangular form. I mean, come on, this triangular formation of 3 lights. Again, I'm super skeptical about everything, right? Y'all know that. But even this has me excited, I have to be honest. Now, I've made a compilation video that I'm going to include later on in this video, right, of a bunch of different people who have responded to this. But I do want to focus on 2 people in particular who have commented on the release of these files. One is Jeremy Corbell, who has a brand new documentary coming out tomorrow, actually, or today, depending on where you are in the world and seeing this, called Sleeping Dog. And he went on TMZ and talked about it, but he also said some things that I hadn't heard before. So we're going to get into that. And also David Grusch, because he also made some quite extraordinary claims, something I kind of hinted at in the opening of the video. So let's jump into this. Let's hear from Jeremy Corbell on TMZ about what he thought of this file dump, and again, some other stuff that he said.
What stands out to you the most from this file dump?
My perspective is a little bit, it's surreal to me. It's a twilight zone. You know, George and I, we've been giving the Pentagon and the DOW a nudge to release this stuff for a long time, trying to provoke a proper response from government about transparency on UAP. We've been doing it a long time, as you know, Harvey. And, you know, I think it's coincidental that today is the first drop, and when it's the premiere of my film Sleeping Dog, which is really born out of this frustration that the government wasn't releasing proper information. I haven't gone through the whole archive. I was told directly from the White House and by Representative Burleson that it's going to be a slow weekly release. But to what end? So the idea is we have these craft, they can perform in ways that, you know, our hardware can't. How far will they go? I'm really excited. I'm encouraged. People should be encouraged and optimistic that there's a turn of transparency.
It's quite a coincidence that these files drop right when Jeremy Corbell's documentary coming out, right? I mean, honestly, there's no way he could have planned that, to be honest with you. You have to set up distribution for a documentary way ahead of time. So you know, for people sort of clamoring that he sort of made this, no, that's not how this goes. It's just blind luck. I mean, I have a documentary coming out this summer that is going to hit perfectly with, you know, Disclosure Day and all these file releases as well. And I shot my documentary last year, right? So like, I had no idea any of this was going to happen. I think it's just, you know, the temperature has just risen across the board of people interested in the topic, which I am happy about. But yeah, just wanted to kind of clarify that it is just blind luck, in my opinion.
We've got to get to this Apollo 17 image because I've been, ever since I saw it this morning, I was like, I got to know what Jeremy thinks of this. So the image is from Apollo 17, the last lunar landing mission, and it shows, you can see the shadow of the landing craft, and then in the distance, like in the sky, there are 3 dots that I don't know what it is, but I can imagine if I were one of the astronauts standing on the moon that day, and suddenly there's something that appears to be a spacecraft floating above the moon, I would freak out.
Yeah, well, I've spoken with a lot of astronauts. I hope this opens up a little bit what they can talk about and not have to walk stuff back. Even in Sleeping Dog, I do the last interview with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, 6th man to walk on the moon. And he had a lot to say about the UAP reality. So now that we have some footage, people can now analyze that. That's more data. But, you know, I do got to say, this is the pressing issue. The public asked for 46 videos, number 2 of which George and I have already released to the public. So that list of videos, those classified videos, that is specifically what I'd like the American public to see. George and I have been exposed to them. I think some of them would be an absolute game changer. So for me, this is kind of, okay, it's a nice slow disclosure coming forward. But if they release those 46 videos, and if they don't, I suspect journalism will do their job for them.
So again, they're focusing on the same picture I was focused on, which I think a lot of people are curious about, especially the triangular formation of those three lights, which is common across many stories that you've heard before, right? But you know, Jeremy then kind of moves the conversation to these 46 alleged videos that are going to be coming out, which I do think they're going to come out one way or the other. And as you'll see later in this compilation video that I made, Representative Luna even says that, and Ross Coulthard as well, that those videos could be coming out as soon as this week, right? So we may get to see them. And as Jeremy describes them, they're a game changer, right? There's some videos in there that are game changing. You know, I'm starting to wonder what those terms mean to certain people, right? Just based off of, you know, oh, wait till you see this, and then you see it and you go, okay. So I don't know. Again, do I want to see the videos? Absolutely. I'll decide if it's a game changer or not. And you can decide for yourself as well if it's a game changer or not. And that's kind of the beauty of it. Release the stuff. We'll decide what to make of it, right? So I am happy about that. But yes, again, the NASA stuff to me and astronauts, I hope more come forward. I just hope we get more from NASA and astronauts and some of that stuff. I just think that is the most compelling stuff we could get into, in my opinion. Just less filters of BS to go through to try to understand what it is. Again, there's less human-made stuff in space, right? Especially when you get to the moon, right? So again, just way more compelling.
You know, if there are, you know, aliens, if there are, well, the reality is they haven't tried to harm us in centuries. Right. And so, in a way, it's more comforting for me to know that there are aliens than it is Iran has a nuclear weapon or could have one.
If that's the end result and that's where we're going towards, look, these videos are great. The ultimate thing is we've had people raise their hand in Congress. We have fought every inch to get people to be able to testify under oath, from Navy commanders all the way to David Grusch, who talked about biologics, beings. Why is it being held back? Look, we're not going to go into some ontological shock about it. People are now ready for this information.
Then what? But then, Jeremy, why is the government so? What's the motivation behind keeping it secret?
It's really simple, Harvey, and we've talked about this before, is that we want a technological advantage. It is fact that we have some of these craft, we've been exploiting them for derivative technologies. We've been exploiting them for weaponry, and all of the different countries that are technologically advanced have been doing the same. So the reason why this is held so secret, higher than weapons of mass destruction, is because we are looking for competitive advantage in warfare. It's an old school way of thinking. Again, you know about nuclear science, but you can't build an atom bomb. People need to know the truth. We are being visited. They're craft from unknown origin. They're technologically advanced, but the secrecy was put in place back in the day because they wanted to make sure that this technology that could be weaponized didn't leak out to other countries. That was the reason for the secrecy. Now we're past that.
I think it's hilarious. The guy from TMZ saying, well, you know, aliens haven't hurt us in centuries. Does he not know the stories in the UFO community? They've been hurting us a long time. If you take any abduction case, right? People being taken against their will. What are we talking about, right? And there's even darker, deeper stuff to get into, right? So clearly that guy just doesn't understand the lore or understand that being taken against your will and being abducted, right, is not somehow not good for humanity, right? So that could be a reason why the government doesn't release that if they have that information. Again, I'm personally not sold that America, like Jeremy, is so confident in saying that we have crashed vehicles, we have alien bodies, right? And we've been and to go even further, we've been reverse engineering them and releasing derivative technology from that stuff, right? I've seen no evidence of any of that. There's a lot of circumstantial testimony that surrounds that, but right, we have not seen the indisputable proof. And if it is the greatest secret in the history of mankind, it seems like a lot of people are just allowed to talk about it without any repercussions, which seems odd. You know, I'd like to see some of these UFO researchers who are so confident in this start looking into other secret projects from Lockheed Martin and our government that have nothing to do with aliens and tell them to report on that stuff and see what happens to them. Right? It wouldn't do it. Right? So it kind of makes me think, something's not right here. Something's not adding up. Again, I separate the existence of the phenomena from whether our government has any information about it. Let me make that clear. I believe there is stuff going on we just don't know about, right? Clearly, things flying around, things happening, experiences all over the world. But does our government have this stuff and we're reverse engineering and all that? I don't know. I just don't think that that's the case personally. And I think if we had derivative technology from this stuff, we'd be using it in wars. And there's just no evidence of any of that, in my opinion, right? But regardless, I'm happy that all of this information is coming out, and I'm happy that more people are talking about it. And I appreciate the passion of people like Jeremy Corbell and others that do this research to get it out. They believe so strongly in this, they'll keep fighting to get the proof out. Great, no problem with that, right? We'll all enjoy the fruits of their labor, essentially. So I do support it, although I am critical of it, and that's just the reality. Until I see the proof, I don't believe it. You know what I mean? Again, I want to believe, but I don't want to be deceived either. So happy to wait until that indisputable proof is made public.
You said that you were told there were going to be weekly releases.
Yes.
There's a phrase in the news which we call burying the lead. And I feel like if there are more impressive, as you said, there's 46 videos, there are more impressive things. Why not lead with the thing that's going to get attention, that's going to make people go, okay, there's something here we should be paying attention to. When you release things like they did today, where there's a lukewarm, at best, response to it or reaction, you lose people.
Yeah, it's going to go one of two ways. I have been exposed to, George Knapp has been exposed to, we've had people testify to, like, biologics, right? Actual beings that pilot these craft and autopsies of them. If that is true, why are they burying the lead? It's either a slow acclimation to the public or they didn't get the good stuff. Even by presidential order, this is so locked down and compartmentalized programs that they didn't get the good stuff to release. But I think that it's just going to be a slow burn.
Now, I have to give credit to Jeremy from my Discord, who brought this video to my attention, and specifically a particular part of it that I also caught when I watched it. But the Jeremy talks about autopsies, alien autopsies in that video, right? That's interesting. I don't know if I've heard this, right? What is he talk? Who's testified about alien autopsies? No one. Right. David Grusch has mentioned, quote, biologics. Right. But you have Jeremy here, in my opinion, for the first time talking about this. We have evidence of alien autopsies. Him and George have seen that. What are we talking? Like, what is that information going to come out? Because that's indisputable. Right. Like, if you look at lights in the sky or a craft, a blurry thing, you don't know what it is. But when you see bodies, alien body, that's a lot harder to be like, I think that's a human. Right. I mean, there's only so many things it could be. Right. So things in the sky flying around, there's a bazillion different things. Right. Then that makes it way more complicated. But aliens, why aren't we starting there? Right. So I'm very curious to hear more about these alien autopsy, either files or reports or photos. I mean, clearly there's got to be information about this. Right. So I'm going to pin that myself and keep that on the back burner, because that is closer to the truth of we're not alone on this planet than anything, right? If we focus on the pilots, forget the, quote, nuts and bolts of craft. I mean, yes, that's awesome. UFOs, great, cool. Alien spaceships, love it. I'm all in. But the bodies, let's get that out of the way, because that would send a message. So again, alien autopsies. Let's go, y'all.
Let's talk about your movie. Dog. Congratulations. I was watching the trailer. This is a fascinating look at your life's work, really.
Yeah, so the cameras were turned around on me once again. I gave this kid a bunch of footage, about 20 years of my footage. You see in this movie some shocking things.
Watching this, does it get you closer to the truth? as a viewer?
Absolutely. I think that this movie does a job that the government didn't fully pull off today. I think you're going to see things in the movie that have never been seen before. Sure, it tells my story and it shows you how I got here so people understand that George and I are fighting for transparency. But look, this movie is about journalism. This movie is about freedom of speech, First Amendment, and really freedom of thought. If the public is not given what we've been exposed to and they don't have that data set to look at the UAP issue, then we have a big, Houston, we got a big problem, right? So this movie really is about the right to perform journalism. You will see in this movie the threats that I have gotten. You'll see the way that people have tried to control the narrative, tried to shut me and George down. That is documented in this movie. I wanted people to know so they can rally behind me and George. You know, this has been a treacherous path. And you can see we make a decision in the movie about our reporting. You see it in real time, and that should tell you what's coming next.
So again, Jeremy's documentary, Sleeping Dog, releases on the 12th, right? May 12th. Again, depending on when you're watching it, it's either tomorrow or today. And yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out, right? He's saying there's a lot of stuff in it. Either way, I just want to see it, right? So we'll have to wait and see, right? Jeremy's quite passionate about what's in it, what's going to change and how it's going to change people's minds and move the needle and all of these sort of things, right? There's game-changing stuff in it. We'll have to wait and see, right? But anybody doing work towards this and putting it out, again, I've made my own documentary that's coming out this summer. It's a lot of work, right? So I respect that just hands down. So I am looking forward to this movie, Sleeping Dog. And we'll have to wait and see. I'll definitely do a review of the movie when it comes out, So again, looking forward to it. Now let's get to some comments that David Grusch made that I find to be also quite, quote, bombshell, right? My favorite word. Basically insinuating that there's a cover up happening in real time, right? And that's why we're not getting the good stuff. Let's take a listen.
What you're saying is we are on the cusp of getting a lot more details that deal with actual alien beings, however you're going to describe them.
That's certainly up to the president's team, and I certainly support them, but it has come to my attention actually recently as of today. There are some actors within certain intelligence agencies, to include DIA and CIA specifically, that are actually blocking some of the president's presidentially appointed team and getting access and getting control on some of these historical records. So I really expect the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, Bradley Hansel, to take care of that, as some of that's under his cognizance, especially on the national program side, which is directly under his organization, to reveal some of the historical National Security Council records on this.
So that's interesting, right? Just calling out some organizations that allegedly are keeping the real stuff, hidden from this, right? Again, these are quite bombshell allegations, right? I wish David Grusch would provide some evidence of this, right? He's just, I'm being told, I'm being that, right? I mean, if Trump knew this, right, wouldn't he put a stop to this? This just doesn't sound like a Trump thing, right? If he saw evidence that this was happening, you're damn right he'd do something about it, right? Whether you like the guy or not, he was not going to stand for anybody trying to keep any information from him or play him in any way, right? So, again, is that true? I don't know. That's always going to be an argument in the UFO community. They're trying to cover it up. They're keeping it hidden. They're doing this. They're doing that, right? That's always the case. That you're always going to hear that. No matter what kind of information comes out from the government, you're always going to have a group of people saying they didn't give it all. They're covering it up. They're this, right? Because the amount of information that has come out about UFOs and aliens is such a broad spectrum, and it can't all be true, right? Because so many things contradict each other, right? So it's like, it's just hard, right? So we'll have to wait and see. I don't know, right? But David Grusch went on to say this as well.
You think he's opening up this door and knows a lot more?
Oh, yes, sir. And I actually went into that in detail recently. I did an interview with Chris Farrell on Judicial Watch. And certainly President was briefed late in his first term before COVID by a particular agency and was briefed on many of these issues, to include the crash retrieval issue. However, like I pointed out on Judicial Watch, certainly I don't think he's gotten all the information, and because of that agency's reputation, he certainly probably doesn't believe quite everything that he's been told, and I'm sure he's tasked his team in the White House to verify a lot of the other aspects that he was briefed on his first term.
See, that's what's kind of odd, right? Trump is being told all of this stuff, and he's just not believing it, right? If he saw evidence of it, that'd be one thing. And that's the problem. He's probably just not seeing evidence of these crash retrieval and this stuff. So they're telling him about it, yet they're not showing him the evidence of it. Something's up with that. That doesn't make any sense, right? You wouldn't tell him if you just don't even want to open that can of worms. So why wouldn't they show him the indisputable proof that allegedly David Grusch and others like him have, right? And if it's, maybe they have showed it and it's not as indisputable as some of these people say it is, right? I don't know, right? Again, people's reactions to things, it's hard to judge, right? How valuable the information is that they're having this crazy reaction to, right? You don't know till you see it yourself, kind of like a movie review, right? If someone says, oh, this movie's amazing, oh my God, you know, and then you see it and you go, dude, that was a piece of shit, right? So you know what I mean? So it's hard to judge, right? But again, they're already opening the can of worms to President Trump and telling him about all this stuff, but then not showing him the indisputable proof about it. Doesn't make sense, right? Something's not adding up, as always in this community. Something is not adding up. I can't put my finger on it. Don't know what it is. Something's not adding up. Now, again, I made this compilation video within this, right, this segment of all kinds of different people's reactions to the files and what's coming out and what's not coming out. And there's holy shit moments coming later and all this stuff. So take a look at this long compilation that I made of all kinds of different people's reaction to the UFO files.
How should people look at this information?
I think with first a skeptical eye, what could explain it? I mean, it's not a balloon. It's not a seagull. Maybe it's a lens flare. Then what's left on the table, as spectacular as it might be, becomes a higher probability.
There's even newly released evidence of sightings from space during NASA's Apollo missions and audio transmissions from Gemini 7 in 1965 with a description from astronaut Jim Lovell.
The brilliant body of the sun against a black background, and with billions of particles around it. Ahead of us, 2 o'clock, slowly doubling.
The cache of more than 160 files follows President Trump's earlier directive for transparency after decades of apparent sightings have fueled a wide range of conspiracy theories, from government cover-ups to aliens.
Do you believe alien life exists and has visited our planet?
I believe that the evidence suggests that there's something more to be looked at and shouldn't be ignored.
In this era of transparency, as the Trump administration says, do you think we are going to see more conclusive evidence?
Whether it's more conclusive, I don't know, but we're going to see more evidence. We have not seen everything that is there. I can say that with certainty.
I have not seen any firm evidence that there are aliens out there. What the Pentagon is now doing is basically letting the American people make up their own minds.
Dr. Michio Kaku is a theoretical physicist. Doctor, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about this UFO release?
I would put it at a 10 because we're at a turning point. For decades, we had to rely upon eyewitness accounts of housewives, truck drivers. People would snicker and laugh at them. Now we're talking about huge files that are top secret that for the first time in modern history are being given to the American public.
All right, Lou, first to you on this one. Give us your thoughts on what we're seeing in these newly released documents and videos and pictures.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, John and Katrina. This is really a historic moment for greater transparency in the U.S. government. This administration made a promise to the American people, and they are delivering on that promise. So I think it's very, very significant. Two, what I'd like to do is just caution people, look, it's very, very easy for us to go down these rabbit holes and just look at something on a video and be like, oh, wow, that's really something interesting. And the reality is a lot of these things have prosaic explanations. What concerns me are the ones that do not. When I was at the Pentagon in the ATIP program, which was the Pentagon's UFO investigative program that we had at the Pentagon, we worked with the CIA, the FBI, and there were moments, there there were instances where we were encountering things that certainly were outperforming anything we have in our inventory, and we were pretty sure was not foreign adversarial. So there's still a big mystery behind this.
I'm very much encouraged by the release of the data today, even though it's preliminary, and we should expect the most interesting data to come out in the future because it takes more time to declassify.
Yeah.
But already today we have about 82 records from the Department of War, 56 records from the FBI, 12 records from NASA, 8 records from the State Department. Altogether, we're talking about serious people noticing things they cannot understand. And of course, their day job is national security. So these are serious people. We depend on them for the safety of our nation.
Yeah.
And they say they cannot figure out things.
I want to warn people, though, this early stuff that we're seeing is not all of it. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. But Trump's having to fight, he's having to fight the deep state. And it's just, and the next files will be tougher to get, but I suspect he'll get them because he is Trump. He knows how to work this thing. And until that day comes, though, there's still going to be more and more, and there's going to be more questions.
We just had a big drop of a bunch of government documents on unidentified aerial phenomena today. Just wanted to put out my own kind of perspective on this. I think that this is a tremendous thing that's happening. I think for a bunch of different reasons. Number one, the government is now formally doing stuff. They're formally investigating it, formally reviewing it, formally putting it out. Especially that one of the videos looks like a North Star. I think that's one of the most shocking things I've seen in a long time. We've never seen a UAP actually look like that. But I'm just really excited. I'm really proud. And I think that the net that they are casting right now, they're really getting things done, and the government's taking this seriously. And I'm still very connected to the subject and to a lot of people working on this, and I feel really good about it. I'm really optimistic that this is going to lead to more investigations, to more review. We're never going to get the perfect thing just presented to us on a plate. But this is the process that happens over years, where they keep digging and digging and digging, and they get to the truth of it all. And I don't know. I'm just really, really stoked. I'm really, really proud that the country's leading like this in this subject area, right on. All right.
Well, to be clear, all the images that you saw in that initial rollout on Friday, these are not AI-generated images. As you saw, even in that video that you just played, there are redactions. So this came off of either military observation, aircraft, etc. And then, obviously, in the next 30 days or so, in talking with the Pentagon, actually, this Thursday, we will obtain these 40-plus documents by name that we at the task force have been specifically requesting. As far as more concrete evidence is concerned, I want to be very clear about something. All of the documents that you saw released per President Trump's directive this February, up until recently, these were considered classified. We actually weren't even able to talk about them without threats of losing our security clearances or being prosecuted. As you saw, the whistleblowers that came forward that did discuss it, there was whistleblower retribution. We've tried a number of times to either get disclosure in legislation, whistleblower protections pertaining to UAPs in legislation. And every single time we do, even though this is one of the most bipartisan, bicameral things in the country, we're stonewalled and we're blocked. And so I'm hoping that this will change the discussion of that Congress will move forward in providing protections, because we've also been told, whether or not there exists back engineering programs regarding this technology, whatever it might include. Our goal and objective is to, ensure that our taxpayer funds are not, being spent somewhere they shouldn't, B, that people aren't breaking federal law, and C, this is an issue of national security. And so based on our investigations, what I can tell you is I'm glad I can finally talk about it. Some of the documentation that you actually saw released this past Friday did include, up until recently, FBI investigations that actually took place here in Florida. And to be clear, we actually were working very closely with the FBI because they were one of the few government agencies that was actually taking this seriously. And based on what we're seeing, we've talked to other governments about this. There's more to come. That's all I'll say on that.
Any idea when the next drop will be and what we can expect next?
I think it might come as early as the end of this week. We might see another drop this coming Friday, as happened last week. I'm certainly told that there are the 46 videos that have been requested by Representative Anna Paulina and the members of the UAP caucus. They've been demanding access to videos that the Pentagon's been sitting on for some time that have been described to us by multiple sources and multiple witnesses. All of the sources tell us that in some cases these are extraordinarily clear images. 4K quality imagery, for example, of an object moving very fast underwater, far beyond known human technology capabilities. And also there are space shuttle images. I'm told that some of the imagery includes images taken from some of the STS space shuttle missions that feature objects that have never been properly explained.
Are we trying to prepare the American people with a slow drip, drip, drip tease of this stuff? If not, then Congressman, I would say, if this is all we've got, then I'm not sure that there's anything the American government really has that tells us anything about the existence of aliens. I'm just beginning to feel like this entire story is teased out always just beyond our reach.
I can sense your frustration. I've experienced it personally myself. I've seen videos that I think are in the process of being declassified, so I think that there is more to come. If they're not going to be disclassified, I'll probably do an effort to release them myself under speech and debate. But again, a lot of the footage that I've seen is similar to what has been released today. There's some that are pretty interesting, and especially given the environment and the circumstances of the videos, whether they are videos of UAPs that are flying around Russian submarines, or a video of our aircraft that are firing on some of these UAPs. I've seen those kind of videos, and so I'm teasing that because I know that I'm telling the administration through you at this moment that if they don't release those, then I have the capabilities of getting those videos and releasing them.
Interesting. So you talk about more to come. I want to show your colleague, Congressman Tim Burchett. You two are two of the handful who are really pushing this stuff. Here's what he said today. He said, remember, the feds told us these files don't exist. President Trump stood up to the deep state. The first drop will be big, but in comparison to what is coming, this will be a drop in the bucket. I would say, quote, holy crap, end quote, is coming. And I think it gets to the bottom line, Congressman. Is the government going to give us answers, like a yes or no, we know or we don't know, about possibly extraterrestrial life?
I don't know, honestly, Blake. What I can tell you is that I've seen videos, the same videos that Tim Burchett has seen. I've been in the same briefings. And yes, there's some moments where I scratch my head and I kind of walk away. I don't know that I would say, holy crap, but okay. I would say there's going to be probably some ontological questions that will come about from some of the videos that hopefully are going to be released that I've seen. But at the end of the day, I don't jump to the same, conclusion that some of my colleagues like Tim and others will make, which is this is aliens from another planet. I've yet to see the proof, the hard proof that this is something extraterrestrial.
Let me start here. Did you learn anything today?
Well, first I'm going to take a step back and say there's never going to be a moment where a release occurs where you could say that it was a distraction or wasn't a distraction. To me, if it is a distraction, I'll take it, because we've been fighting for some kind of disclosure or release for decades. The American people have been begging for this for decades. And for the first time, you have a U.S. president who's saying, here it is. And the fact that he's not running it through, programs like Arrow to filter it, or to some Rube Goldberg process that takes months and months to declassify. He is being extremely transparent with the American people. And so I think there's more to come. I think what we're seeing is the low-hanging fruit items that they were able to quickly search and find and release. But to get to the real bottom of this, they're going to have to dig very hard and deep. They're going to have to go to the CIA. They're going to have to make the CIA release stuff. They're going to have to go to some of our FFRDCs, which are the federally funded research and development centers, companies like MITRE, Rand Corp, Aerospace Corp. They're going to have to go to companies like Lockheed and Northrop Grumman, and they're going to have to subpoena some of this information, I think, if we're going to really get to the bottom of this.
What doesn't totally make sense is why now disclosure, other than, this is being cynical. The Iran war is not going very well. American public's very upset. A lot of people don't think we should have ever been involved in that in the first place, and we need some good news.
I think we
need something to distract us. We need something to take our focus off of.
If I was going to do it, now would be the time I'd do it. But I don't think Trump really even cares. I think he just wants to get it out there.
Well, I think he does too. He's talked about it, and he's also.
I don't think he cares about trying to get everybody off target. By disclosing UFOs. I think he cares about all of it, but I don't think he cares that if you're talking about it or not. I just think he genuinely sees that America needs to know this stuff.
Well, he also realizes America wants to know it, and he's an outsider. Even though he's the president, he is completely in a lot of ways he's an outsider. And this is his last term, right? And so it's like if someone's gonna do it, do it. You want to leave a legacy? Be the guy who releases all these files.
I tried to kill him 3 times.
Yeah.
So
I have some really cool announcements I'll be making very soon. Some big moves that I'm extremely excited about. And I know some of you may be disappointed on the initial release, but I can assure you, I know firsthand from people I'm speaking to on the inside that there's a lot more good stuff coming, and there's going to be an effort for even better stuff to be released. Specific stuff that they know exists and where it is, all that stuff.
And so, this tranche of evidence that was declassified today is just barely scratching the surface. Everyone involved in this process inside the government knows that. And so the following tranches will be, the juicier stuff that is harder for them to get. It'll just take longer. But I do think that they're determined to get to the truth. And I don't think they're going to give up until they get it.
All right, betters, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to check out my link with Delphi, where the market is asking, will aliens formally introduce themselves in 2026? The number of the yes is rising, especially with all these files, movies coming out, documentaries. I think people are getting more convinced that that's actually going to happen. So use my link down below and go make the bet yourself and see where you're at. All right, betters, we'll see you in the next one. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.